Hello there. My name is Karthik Chalmaseti and my SASU ID is 0166755594. And today's topic is about system design. Coming to the introduction, system design is generally the process of designing the architecture and the components of the software system, trying to build, meeting specific business requirements. And this process generally involves defining the architecture, system architecture components, modules, and interfaces, and identifying the technologies and tools that will be used to implement the system. So there are several steps that is followed to start the system design. First is to understand the requirements. Before you begin designing the system, you need to understand the requirements. This involves talking to stakeholders and users, reviewing existing documentation, and analyzing the business processes that the system will support. Second is to define the system architecture. Once you have a clear understanding of the requirements, you can begin defining the system architecture. This involves identifying the major components of the system and interfaces between them. Choose the technology stack. Based on the requirements and the system architecture, you can select the technology stack. This includes choosing the programming language, database, frameworks, and libraries that will be used to implement the system. So next is to design the modules. You need to design the modules that will make up the system. This involves defining the function that each module will perform and the data that it will manipulate. And the fifth point is to plan for scalability. As you design the system, you need to consider how it will scale. So this involves identifying potential bottlenecks and designing the system to handle increased loads. Sixth point is to consider security and privacy. As it should be a key consideration in system design. This involves identifying potential security threats and designing the system to mitigate them. Seventh point is to test and validate. This is the final point. So once the system design is complete, you need to test and validate it using the following methods. So this involves creating test cases and scenarios that simulate real world usage and verifying that the system meets a set of requirements, satisfies the requirements. So overall, the system design is a complex process that requires careful planning and attention by detail. By following these steps, you can create the system design that meets the needs of the users. So coming to the how to approach the design problem. So whenever you are given different kinds of system design problems, first thing is you break down the problem. When you're given a design problem, start breaking down into small components. These components can be services or features which you need to implement in the system. Initially, a system um, given to be designed can have a large number of features, and you are not expected to design everything if it's an interview. Ask your interviewer about the features you are planning to put in your system. So if there is anything else you should be putting there, any feature, any service, just ask them. And the second point is to communicating your ideas, communicate well with the interviewer while designing the system, keep him up in the loop, discuss your process out loud, try to demonstrate the design clearly on the whiteboard with flowcharts and diagrams, describe your ideas to your interviewer, how you have planned to tackle the problem of scalability, how you will be designing your database, and many others. Assumption and third point is make assumptions that make sense. Make some reasonable assumptions while you are designing the system. Suppose you have to assume the number of requests and that will be processing per day, the number of database calls made in a month, and the efficiency rate of your caching system. So these are some of the numbers you need to assume while designing, and try to keep these numbers as reasonable as possible. Back up your assumption with these with some solid facts and figures. Now we need to know how to approach a design problem, but in order to succeed in the interview or to successfully build a scalable system, we need to ensure that the system is reliable, available, scalable, and maintainable. So we should have knowledge on what these terms are and how they impact in our system in the long run. So, uh, so reliability is basically mm, a system which is reliable can meet the end user requirement. So when you are designing a system, you should have planned to implement the set of features and services in your system. If you have all these features without wearing out, then your system is considered as reliable. Also, it is a fault tolerant system, which is capable of all the faults and failures that are happening in the system. And the second is checking the availability of the system design. So it is a characteristic of a system which ensures that agreed level of operational performance, also known as uptime, and it is essential for a system to ensure high availability in order to serve up the user's requests if there are a lot number of requests that have been made. So suppose you are designing a social media application, then high availability is not much of a need. A few of delay of few seconds can be tolerated. Similarly, scalability. When designing the system, you need to keep in mind how mind of the load experienced by it. It is said you have to design a system for load X. X, then you have should plan and design it for 10 times and test it for 100 times. Um, so like a number of requests coming to a system of getting processed per day, number of database calls that are being made, number of cache hits and miss requests to a system and users currently active in the system. So that should be it. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Sriram. Today I'm gonna present about the system design for Dropbox. And Dropbox is file sharing service where you would be able to share different files in a single platform. And let us see how to design Dropbox. So system design is something like how would you design a particular platform? Let us say Dropbox for instance, where it is a file sharing service where you will be sharing a multiple files at a time in a single service. We have to address what are the problems that are there for designing this kind of application. So, and we have to come up with the different solutions that are there, and we have to make some, like we have to show the proof of concept of how these solutions are gonna work for our application. So that is what system design is, and let us see how Dropbox system design works. So we have to think about how to design system design for a particular application. For Dropbox, let us say, since it is a file sharing service, we need to have some cloud storage where we'll be, like storing those files too. So in the same way, you have to um, find the problems for that application so that you will be finding the solutions as well. And for Dropbox, one of the main important problem is where to store these files. So that would be some cloud services like Amazon S3. And then we have to, like discuss the core features. So core features are something like you should be able to upload, download, update, and delete the files, file versioning, file and folder sync. So these are the different core features that are there. And the other thing that one needs to discuss is the traffic. How would different users able to like use our application concurrently, and how would our application work when the concurrent users are gonna uh, use our application. And for everything, we need to do the problem statement, and then we have to see how we have to do come up with the solution. So let us see like how to save a file and how to edit it. Let us say one GB file is being there, and we need to edit it. How would you edit it? You need to download it from the service that you already uploaded and edit it, and again upload it. It is very 10 years process, right? So this is not a ideal way to like tackle a particular thing like editing a video or editing a file or editing something like that. So what we have to do is we have to find more um, ideal way to do this kind of solution to tackle this kind of problem. One thing is dividing our main file into so many other subfiles, and then we have to update one of the subfiles such that it should not be affecting the entire file. So this is one way to like tackle this editing type of editing a file kind of thing, not to upload and edit and then re-upload again the entire file. If the file is being stored in multiple subparts, then we can edit the subpart such that only this part will be uploaded again rather than the complete 2 GB file. So this is one of the main important thing. that is needed for designing a Dropbox kind of application. And this is the architecture to design this kind of thing. And then we have to distinguish what are the different client components and what are the different um, end user components. Client components are something like watcher, and watcher is something which needs to like give information to, such as whenever user is being creating, updating or deleting files, a watcher should get the information and it has to store the data. And the chunker is something like when a file is being uploaded, it has to make the file into different chunks so that when the user is editing, only if that particular chunk is being edited rather than the entire file. And the indexer is responsible for updating the internal database. So these are the different components. And what would the other components? Metadata database. Metadata database is something like whenever we need to use the metadata, this metadata is not stored in Cloud S3 or something like that. This should be stored in either RDBMS or NoSQL. RDBMS and NoSQL have their own advantages and disadvantages, and we have to see those advantages, and we have to use either RDBMS or NoSQL according to our application needs. And after that, message queuing services, and we have to use message queuing services like Kafka or something, something that is similar to Kafka, so that concurrent users can be able to use our application at a time. This is one of the important feature to handle the latency of our application. And synchronization service is something like whenever we store some file to our application, we need to like make ourselves and our apps sync with the particular end user, such that all the information is there with us and with him as well. And this kind of synchronization is essential for any application in the cloud storage. And obviously the cloud storage is Amazon S3, where we'll be storing the application, storing like different files that are done by users. This is typically the system design for Dropbox. Thank you.
Twitter, you might be good at checking this social media all the time. But what if somebody asks you to design this gigantic system within just 45 minutes? So let's just do how we can do that. Yes, this is what you are expected to do in your system design round of interview. We are not joking, and you need to tell your approach about designing a system like Twitter within 45 minutes. So let's talk about it, how we can do it. So how would you design the Twitter? Don't just jump into the technical details immediately. When you're asked this question in your interviews, uh, do not run in one direction. It will just create confusion between you and the interview. So what we would suggest is you can put yourself in a situation where you're working on real life projects. Firstly, define the problem and clarify the problem statement. In this question, we will compress Twitter to its MVP, minimum viable product. Nobody expect you to design the whole service, so we will only design the core features of the Twitter instead of everything. So okay, so first we'll discuss the core feature of the Twitter. I think the user timeline, home timeline, and search timeline are the core feature. User timeline says user sees his or her own tweets and tweets user retweets, and tweets that users see when they visit their profile. Home timeline, this will home timeline will display tweets from people users follow. Search timeline, when users search some keywords or hashtag and they see the tweets related to that particular keyword. Naive solution would be data modeling and server feeds. In data modeling, you can use relational database like MySQL, and you can consider two tables, user tables and tweet tables. The user information will be stored in the user table, and whenever a user will tweet a message, it will be stored in the tweet table. Two relations are also necessary here. One is user can follow each other, and the other is each feed has a user on. So there will be one to many relationship between user and tweet table. server feeds, you need to fetch all the feeds from all the people a user follows and render them in chronological order. Limitation of the architecture is you will have to do big select set statement in the tweet table to get all the tweets from the specific user, whomsoever he or she is following. And that's also in chronological order. Doing this every time will create a problem because the tweet table will have huge content with lots of tweets. We need to optimize this solution to solve this problem. And for that, we will move to the high level solution for this problem. Before before that, it's let's understand the characteristic of Twitter first. So the characteristic is Twitter has 3 million daily active user every on average every seconds, 6,000 tweets on Twitter every seconds. 6 lakh query are made to get timelines. Each user has average 200 followers, and some user like some celebrity or millions of followers. So the Twitter has heavy read in comparison to writing. So should care much about availability, scale of application for heavy read on Twitter. We can consider eventual consistency for this kind of system. Is completely okay if a user sees the tweet of his follower a bit delayed. Space is not a problem as tweets are limited to 140 characters.
Hi everyone. Today I'm going to discuss about system design of book measure app. So we will be having some requirements. The portal should list different cities where the theaters are located. Once the user selects the city, it should display the movies related in that particular city. Once the user selects the movie, the portal should display the cinemas running that movie, and user should be able to select the show at a particular theater and also book the tickets. The user should send the copy of tickets via SMS or email. And there are also other requirements which uh, the owner of the application will ask the software people. So the main task here is how does Book My Show app talk to theaters? When you visit any third-party application using the mobile app, you should see the available and occupied seats for the movie in the theater. Now the question is how these third-party aggregators talk to the theaters. Definitely the app needs to work with the theater server to get the seat collection and give it to the users. So we can get these information using two strategies. One is the specific number of seats will be dedicated to every aggregator, and these seats will be offered to the user. The other one is the app can work along with the theater and other aggregators to keep updating the seat availability. So another aspect here will be how to get the seat availability information. So the aggregators can connect the theaters DB directly and get the information, or they can use the theater seat API to get the available seat information. What if multiple users try to book the same ticket using different platforms? So in this case, the theater server needs to follow a timeout mechanism like 5 to 10 minutes. Along with these, when coming to architecture, you can use load balancer to distribute the load on the server. We can do front-end caching using varnish and etc. to reduce the load from the backend infrastructure. And we can also keep multiple app servers uh, We will also use caching to save the information related to movies, seating orders, and theaters. When coming to database, we can use both RDBMS and NoSQL databases. In RDBS, DBMS, we can utilize the ACID properties in our system, and also we can include business intelligence in this. For data analytics of business information, we need to have an Hadoop platform so that we can use all the logs and dump them into Hadoop. We can extract information like user behavior and user graph. ML is used to understand the user's behavior and to generate movie recommendations. And also, we can use some log management systems. So, this is the overall system design of Book My Show app.